guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Alejandra Montante and this is Living the Life with Fibromyalgia. So in today's video, I really wanted to talk about how to deal with developing fibromyalgia. And what I mean by that is that the beginning stages of developing fibromyalgia, you have no idea what the hell hit you. It's like a train, life just rammed right into your body, and you're obviously caught off guard. So I wanted to share personal tips that I wish I knew at the beginning of my journey. So tip 1, understanding your pain. So when I developed fibromyalgia, it really hit my left knee first, more than anything of my body. And then out of nowhere, it started hitting my right one. And at a certain point, I couldn't even walk. I was limping, and at this point I didn't have a job, but I was consistently going to the gym, and I really saw my strength just decrease and plummet, and I was so confused. And then out of nowhere, I started feeling my spine feeling like it's compressing, and then sitting down was a chore. And eventually walking, I couldn't even do it anymore. I felt so fatigued, I felt so tired, and nobody can possibly explain that type of feeling. It's an unusual feeling. You feel like you can't, like literally you cannot do today. It's that type of fatigue where you're just insanely depressed and you don't want to do anything, but times 20, and I wish I could explain it better, but I can't explain this pain to you unless you already have gone through it. And eventually I just couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't close my hands. I couldn't move my legs. I just was bedridden for a full 2 days. Like I said, it's a feeling that you've never felt before. Then this leads me to my next tip. My family didn't know what to do, and so they took me to my primary care doctor, and we did a lot of blood tests. And he eventually told us that I needed to get admitted to the hospital ASAP. They had thought that I had leukemia. And then it wasn't leukemia, so then they thought other things. And they were having me do a bunch of tests on my body, blood work, muscles, everything. And a couple of days later, they tell me, well, we ran everything we could. You're healthy. But I don't feel healthy. And I told them that I feel so weak. What's wrong? Like, my body's hurting. They said, well, just don't do the things you're doing now. Simple. Well, that's not a fair answer now, is it? So how do you find the right doctor? 2 years passed after that. I was still confused and not understanding what was going on. So then my sister set me up with a bone specialist. Again, I know fibromyalgia has nothing to do with your bones now, but at the time, we were trying to figure out what the hell's going on with me. So I went, and I guess the doctor had a really bad day, and the first thing he told me was, why are you here? You're young, you don't have arthritis. We already looked at your x-rays and nothing's in between your joints. So what do you want? And I told him exactly what I feel. I feel that I can't do deadlifts. I feel like I can't work out. I feel like I can't walk. And it just hurts just to be. Well, he said, well, nothing's wrong with you, so what do you want me to do? And I told him, well, my wrist really hurts today. Is there anything, any medication, anything that I could take? He said, no, but I guess I'll give you a wrist brace. Well, that was something I was already doing. I was wearing a bunch of wrist stuff and knee braces. I felt like RoboCop, seriously. And he just gave me an extra wrist brace, so I guess I just took it. And the rest of the day, I was at my sister's house, and I was just laying down on their carpet, feeling in so much pain. It wasn't until I went to my therapist, and this was a whole year later, or even 2 years later. She says, "I think you have fibromyalgia." I had never heard this word prior to that day. And I was like, "What is fibromyalgia?" She's like, "I'm not really sure, but my sister, she's a rheumatologist, and she talks about a lot of chronic illnesses. And I think you meet those criterias." I'm like, "Okay, how do I go about it?" So I find out that with a rheumatologist, you have to get a primary care doctor to even, send you off until their way. And I didn't have a primary care doctor. And to be quite honest, I didn't want to go to any doctor because I was so mad. I couldn't trust doctors because of my experiences. My sister took it upon herself to be very aggressive with one of the rheumatologists and demand that I get on a waiting list because I've had bad experiences, and to please just give me a chance on that. Well, 6 months later, out of the blue, I get a call, and they're just like, so a position opened, and I was wondering if you could come in today. Oh gosh, I was at my ex-boyfriend's house, and I told him. He's like, "Well, we need to go." And I'm just like, "What? We need to go?" He's just like, "Yeah, I know how scared you are of being alone, and I know this is totally out of nowhere, so I'm gonna go with you." And so he ended up doing so, and we went, and I was completely nervous. My trauma and everything in my life was still very, very fresh. And I go in, and she's just like, "What are you feeling?" And how I'm gonna describe it, she sounds rude, but she was just pretty much on her laptop typing away. Well, it wasn't. It came out that I did have fibromyalgia, because fibromyalgia, there's no testing for it. They base it all off of your symptoms that you're exhibiting. And she told me, "You have fibromyalgia and you have fatigue syndrome." Fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia is like anxiety and depression. They're always going to be with each other. You can have one or the other, but more than likely, you're going to have both of them. And so it was a very happy moment, because once you find out what you have, honestly, you're able to look it up and you're able to do something about it. So, backtracking. In the beginning of my journey, when I developed fibromyalgia, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to go about life. And later on, I found out that I'm going to have to readjust my entire life because of fibromyalgia, meaning my present and my future. But the future part will come later as I grow up. So readjusting your life, it comes at any point. Chronic illness hits you whenever it wants to hit you, whenever a trigger happens, because that's just how genes work. You could start off at the age of 7. You could be born with this chronic illness, or you could have it when you're a young adult, or even when you're older than a young adult. It just hits you, and now you have to plan around that chronic illness. A lot of my life was affected by it. If anything, I think my PTSD would have been way better if I didn't have fibromyalgia. But I do. And I had to really take care of myself. But at that time, I was still in the mindset that I needed to push forward, because that's always been me. Readjusting your mindset is the most hardest part of this whole entire journey. So that leads me to my fourth tip. Your mindset. Your mindset will take a completely different hit. Because you were raised a certain way, and you already see yourself in a certain light, and you already saw your future in a certain way, because that's what you were building up to. Now you have to change the whole thing, and you have to backtrack a lot of the things you've learned throughout your life. This is where therapy is really important. If you're in college, please go see a counselor and you've just developed a chronic illness, because a chronic illness is going to change your life. It is going to change your future. You are going to have more patience towards yourself, and you're going to have to know that taking a break doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're taking time for yourself. It's self-care. You're giving yourself that respect, and going to therapy will really help with that. Even research has shown that individuals who do have fibromyalgia, it's highly recommended that you go to therapy, because your anxiety, because your stress levels will affect your flare-ups. And I know not a lot of us have those opportunities to even go to a therapist, to go to a counselor, to go to college. I understand that. And if that's the case for you guys, then please, you're gonna have to get a support group. And if your family, I know how that feels, if your family doesn't understand, because I had a brother who just straight up said, "What are you doing? Stop being a crybaby." That hurts. So please, if you don't have a physical support group, there are forums for individuals who do have chronic illnesses, and I'll link that in the description box below. But you are going to need a support group. And finding other individuals who have fibromyalgia, who understand in full what you're going through, honestly brings a smile to my face every single time. Like a comment that I got the other day about understanding the pain and describing how real it is for her. That made me want to cry, because that makes me feel like you're not alone, and sometimes you do feel like you are alone. Like I said, it does hit you mentally pretty hard. So I totally understand your fears towards it. So that brings me to my last tip. Understanding that it's a process. This whole journey, it's going to be wacky. It's going to feel like hell. It's going to feel so frustrating, because you want it to be okay again. You want to be able to do certain things, and you can't. You can't work out like you used to. You can't be around people like you used to. You can't just be like, you know what, yeah, I'm totally gonna do that. Especially you Aquariuses. You can't be that spontaneous anymore. And that has a massive impact on who you are and what you're doing, what you're currently going through, the struggles that you're currently going through. It's gonna hurt, but it's a process to get where you need to be. Now I actually take days off, and I'm actually okay with them. And I don't beat myself up as much as I used to. In fact, I'm just like, Alex, too bad. What are you going to do now? You're going to meditate. Please breathe in and out. Because if I start really fixating on it, I'm going to have an anxiety attack. And that's going to hurt me a lot more than what it is currently. What the flare-up currently feels like. If my knee's just hurting, oh thank God my knee's just hurting, rather than my entire body being in just excruciating pain. So it's a process. And wherever you guys are in your process, I'm so sorry for what you're feeling right now. But I want you to know that you're worth a life. You're worth whatever it is your negative thoughts are telling you. It's an adjustment. It's you going to take care of yourself. It's a lot. It's a lot of willpower. You will be resilient, and you do have a community. People just don't know how to talk about it, because how to describe fibromyalgia, it's kind of wacky. Nobody will ever be able to fully understand what you're going through. But if you're able to find somebody who's sympathetic or empathetic, that's enough, honestly. But you're not alone. It's a process. Please remind yourself that it is a process to get where you need to be. It's a process to be in a certain mindset where your fibromyalgia doesn't flare up to 1,000 degrees. You need to make plans. You need to do a lot just to keep your fibromyalgia in a balanced stage. Please don't give up. And I know you'll have bad days, and I know you'll have worse days, but the good days are what you're building up for, because this thing does not go away, just like most chronic illnesses. Alright guys, well, I hope you do have a wonderful week, and you are worth it. Please remember that the journey gets easier. I promise you, do everything you can to be better mentally. And once you're mentally in a better place, physically, you'll feel it. Alright? I love you guys so much. Bye!